What's the perfect pairing for fresh Gulf shrimp? Grits. Today I'm going to show you how to make the iconic Alabama shrimp and grits. Here's what you'll need to make it. Let's get peeling. To start, you're going to need a pound of fresh shrimp with the heads and shells on. If you're intimidated by a whole shrimp with the head on, you're not alone. But I'm going to show you the tips and tricks to just remove the head and the shells with ease. So to remove the head of your shrimp, and I learned this from our shrimper friends in Biola Battery, simply just take your thumb and just whoop, pop the head right off. I'm then going to take it and I'm just going to peel the legs off first. And as I peel them off, I'm kind of loosening the shell up around the shrimp. And what you can do from there is just basically peel it off almost like a wrapper down to the tail. And I like an ample tail on mine just because they're shrimp. They should be swimming around in that sauce. Next comes the vein. And you know, that's one of the cardinal sins, I think, if you're cooking shrimp, is not removing the vein. And it doesn't get much easier than just a simple paring knife, and I'm gonna run it right through the back of the shrimp. Now, I'm barely touching the skin of the shrimp because what I want to do is I don't want my knife to cut into that little tract there. And once you see it, you can almost just remove it whole by picking it up with your knife and then just dropping it in your bowl. And then there you have it, a poopless shrimp. We really want to hold on to that shell and the head because it's going to be the perfect stock for our grits. This is a great thing to take advantage of when you have seafood on hand because it really freezes well. And fresh seafood stock has a much richer flavor than seafood stock that you're going to buy in the store. I'm laying my shrimp out on a platter and then I'm going to run just cool water over them just to wash away anything that might residually be stuck to the outside. You don't want to chomp down on a leg. So buying your seafood local has a ton of benefits. The first being fresh shrimp is usually always easier to peel than shrimp that has been shipped from another country or frozen for long periods of time. They're also a lot more tender. But I think the best part is fresh Gulf shrimp has a really good sweet flavor versus a mineral flavor that I tend to taste when I'm having shrimp that's been frozen and shipped for long periods. And that sweet flavor is what we want in our shrimp and grits. Plus, you're also supporting a whole community of people, from the shrimpers to who makes the nets, who splices the wires, and everything in between. And done. So you want to wash this in the coldest of cold water. You can even take a bowl with ice water and just take your shrimp and dip it in there too. You don't want to use warm water or hot water because that's going to prematurely cook our shrimp and we don't want that to happen. Well, I'm going to go wash these shrimp and I'll meet you at the stove. Let's start with the foundation of our shrimp and grits, the actual grits. I have brought 4 cups of seafood stock to a bowl. And you want it to be at that full bowl where when you stir it, it doesn't stir down, so a rolling bowl. Take your grits, and we're doing 4 servings today. So this is a cup of grits to 4 cups of stock. Now, of course, if you don't want to make seafood stock or if you don't have any on hand, then you can totally use chicken stock. I suggest using some kind of stock because you really want that extra flavor. So I'm going to give our grits here a good stir. And I'm also going to put about a teaspoon of salt directly in there just to give us even more flavor. I'm going to bring this up to a boil just a little bit. I'm going to put my lid on, reduce the heat, and I'm just going to let these grits hang out for a good 30 to 35 minutes. You want to make sure you keep an eye on your grits though and keep them good and stirred and whisked up because you don't want them sticking at the bottom of the pan. Now's the time to say that if you have a favorite grit or a grit texture that you really like, you can use yellow, white, any kind of coarse grit you want. I just would probably steer clear of the blue ones. Looks a little funny with shrimp and grits. And now we just wait. Our grits have been bubbling away and the texture looks absolutely just what we want. Grits are one of those things that's pretty visual, so once you decide on what your certain grit preference is, you'll know it. I'm going to add in a couple tablespoons of butter and just give that a gentle whisk, and then I'm also going to add in some heavy cream. Keep a little extra heavy cream on hand just in case you need to thin your grits slightly. I'm gonna get all of that cream and butter spread throughout our grits here, and then I'm gonna add in 3/4 a cup of white cheddar cheese. Of course, if you like Gouda, white cheddar, you can make any cheese variations that you want. And you just can't go wrong with cheese. Those grits are perfectly spreadable, yet creamy and not solid. So this is the exact grit we want under our shrimp. I'm gonna move our grits off the stove and let them wait while our shrimp cook, which isn't that long, so these aren't gonna turn into a solid brick or anything. Let's get started on our shrimp. I have 2 tablespoons of butter melting in our skillet, and be sure and use a skillet for this for even cooking for our shrimp. So this is completely optional, but I would suggest you do this. Use a tablespoon of bacon drippings and melt it directly into that butter. That's gonna give us that really good pork flavor that we want with our shrimp. I'm gonna add in just a little bit of sausage that's been finely diced. So the key when you are cooking shrimp and grits is you want all of your components in small, tiny pieces so they're not competing with the shrimp. Now there are variations where the sausage goes in the actual sauce of our shrimp and grits with the shrimp, but I'm browning this up and then I'm gonna add it to our grits because I just really like that texture in the grits, and I want the shrimps to be the star. We're just gonna slightly brown our sausage, so we're not cooking this fully, it's already fully smoked. We just want a little bit of char, and we also want it to release a little bit of that flavor into our butter bacon grease. Now that our sausage is all browned up, I'm gonna use a slotted spoon and just transfer this to a bowl. We wanna leave all of that good liquid in the bottom of our skillet. And if you have a little that hang out in there, just go ahead and leave them. Now that our sausage flavor has imparted itself into the skillet, let's add a little rendition of the Holy Trinity, just not as much as you're probably used to. I'm using a red bell pepper today. You can use any color bell pepper you want, but I really love that pretty color contrast, especially with the white grits. Onion, and just half a stalk of celery. And again, I've just sliced and chopped all of my vegetables in the same size, which is really small because again, we don't want that competing with our shrimp. And you also don't want to bite into just a huge piece of pepper or onion or celery. We're gonna cook this over medium-high heat just until everything cooks down and is soft, around 8 minutes. So now that the kitchen's smelling really good, let's add some tomato paste. So this is a tablespoon of tomato paste. Just gonna go directly into our onions, peppers, and celery. Give that a little stir around, and then I'm gonna add some chopped garlic. Like 3 cloves, but you can always adjust the taste if you're a garlic person. I'm gonna cook this just until the tomato paste turns dark in the pan and all of this is evenly coated. So now's the part you don't want to do prematurely, and that is we are going to sprinkle a tablespoon of all-purpose flour directly over our vegetable mixture here. That's going to give us that little bit of silky smooth thickness to our sauce. I'm just going to evenly coat all of our vegetables here. Looking good and pasty, just what we want. And I'm gonna add in 3/4 a cup of shrimp stock and then 1/4 a cup of crushed tomatoes. I'm gonna bring that up to just a simmer. Now that this is back up to a simmer, we're gonna add just a dash of hot sauce, like a teaspoon. If you like stuff hotter, feel free to heat it up. A little bit of lemon juice for some brightness, and last but not least, just like any Southern cook, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And now for the stars of our show, our shrimp. I've taken a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and you just want to lightly season those, and then we're going to go directly into the sauce. Now, most home cooks tend to overcook their shrimp, so that's why we're adding them towards the end. Shrimp really need just a minute or two to cook. I'm gonna give them a good toss in our sauce here. Tossing our sauce. Regular old Emily Dickinson over here with shrimp. And this is the time that you don't want to leave your stove because you don't want to overcook those shrimp. It'll be like eating an eraser just with some grits thrown in. I've kind of scattered them around in my pan to where they're kind of in an even layer. And I'm just gonna let them hang out in there. So Alabama shrimp and grits is unique in the sense that it has a little bit of a tomato base in the sauce, or the Gulf gravy, whatever you want to call it. It also has sausage and bacon, which if you go on up into the Carolinas, it's more of a thicker gravy sauce, and they completely omit the sausage altogether, and it's only bacon. So I like the best of both worlds. Also, if you make your shrimp and grits and you think, oh, the sauce is too thick or it's too thin, you can always add a tiny bit more flour. You can always add a little more tomato. Add just simple lemon juice to thin your sauce. That just brightens up the sauce, and it also keeps the sauce at a really good consistency. Now that our shrimp are perfectly cooked and swimming around in that Gulf gravy, I'm gonna top it with just a little bit of fresh parsley. Save a little bit for garnish too, because you definitely want some. And then green onion or chives. Give that a little bit of a stir, and I'll meet you back at the island to plate up our shrimp and grits. Our shrimp and grits are finally ready, and my belly couldn't be happier. It's been growling over the stove this whole time. So let's plate our grits up. Like I said earlier, I like to pour just a little bit of the sausage into my grits. I'm gonna give that a good stir. If you've made your grits beforehand and you need to thin those, simply add just a little more butter, a little more heavy cream. You can also optionally top your shrimp and grits with the sausage too. Get an ample serving of those grits, and you know it's good when they trail onto the plate. That's what we want when it's trying to stick to the spoon. That means we've got perfect amount of cheese in there. It is driving me nuts though. Now let's add our shrimp. So you definitely don't want to mix your shrimp and grits in the pot. You don't want this good Gulf Coast gravy to go directly in those grits. It's just gonna make it way too thick, and you're gonna lose all of that flavor that we want floating right on top. And then I'm just gonna top it with just a few more herbs and just a little bit of bacon. And who am I kidding? Let's put a little bit of sausage on there too. You can also optionally plop a bit of butter on top there. You can make this your very own. So now that we're all plated up, I have a spoon in hand. Let's have a little bite of the Gulf Coast and Brilliant. It's just like being right back in the sand. I cannot wait for y'all to try this. It's so good. Grits. Grit. You eat the grit. Grits. What's the perfect pairing for fresh Gulf shrimp? Hold on, I almost said and peels attached. Is that a good angle for that guy? There's a little dookie. I don't think we can say poopless, can we? And that one didn't have a poop. It's its lucky day.
Did I get the head off enough?
No, pop the whole thing off. Just think about it being somebody else. I'm not gonna tell y'all who I'm envisioning. Just give that. Where did that come from? Is that what is it? Zest bag? Salt bag?